around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle nobody, settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, in this art he's king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
Ooh, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Kyle, aka the hardest part of the ring. Back for another apron bump. And we got some progress action. Progress. I feel like I'm too deep into saying progress to start calling it progress now, which I think is what people call it, but whatever the case may be. Progress Chapter 13. What do you want? Progress. I think my cat, like, literally, I start talking into this mic, and then he thinks like that he needs to defend me from the mic. He's a stupid fucking idiot. I mean, his name's Dwayne. Stupid cat. I mean, I gave him the name, but he's still stupid fat piece of shit. Progress Chapter 13. Unbelievable Jeff is the title of this chapter. I'm sure you lads across the pond, I'm sure you all understand the reference. Chris Kamara, I believe, is his name from Sky Sports. Is that his catchphrase? Is that a thing he does? Who knows? But he makes a cameo here in the beginning of this chapter, which is why it's titled that, I guess. But I'm sure he's a big deal to some of you. But my American listeners are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I don't know. I don't know either. So I'm right there with you. But yeah, chapter 13. We're here in the mid 2014. The mid 2014. Why'd I say it like that? We're here in the middle of 2014. And what's happening? Well, we got Jimmy Havoc as the Progress champ. He's still cooking. He's still building up to this amazing reign that he has. The whole storyline with him expands in this chapter. How does it expand? Well, you'll hear about it in the episode, but let's just say he's building himself a bit of a faction, huh? We get some major storyline implications, and one character that we've seen a lot thus far in Progress makes a huge character change. And that all plays into the main event and another match on this show. But other than that, we also see two major stars in terms of today make their debut on this chapter. I'll just say who they are. One of them is Pete Dunne, and a very fresh-faced, very different-looking Pete Dunne. I'll probably post it on social media what he looks like, but let's just say he is not the bruiserweight. He is more like a loser-weight, huh? Who's with me? No, he'd probably still kick my ass, but he looks like a punk-ass dickhead in this chapter. And then the second gentleman that we see, Finn Balor. Man. And I was like, isn't he already in NXT at this point? But apparently this is 2 months before he debuts. So this is pretty much the Finn that we see today is what we see here in Progress Chapter 13. Obviously, at this point, he's a huge name in Japan and Mexico and the UK. And he's about to ship off to Boston. He's about to ship off to the USA. So we get to see Finn Balor here face Zack Sabre Jr. Yeah. Just look at that on paper, and it's certainly a banger. So Check that out. I think it's on YouTube somewhere for free. Prince Devitt versus Zack Sabre Jr. from Progress Chapter 13. But other than that, we see Will Ospreay, we see Malachi Black, lots of big names in this chapter, and of course a crazy ladder match in the main event for the title. So lots of big happenings on this show. And as I'm watching this, man, I'm getting the same feeling that I got when I was watching Ring of Honor, like in the mid 2000s. Just so much fun. Like, it seems like I'm trying to like sell you guys on it, like they're paying me or something, but they're really not. It's just genuinely great wrestling. Like, I Demand Progress is the service I use. It's like $8 a month. If you have the disposable income, I highly recommend it. It's just such an easy watch every chapter. And you get to see a lot of these guys in their early stages of their career, and in some cases more hungry than they are now. So great stuff here. Lots of great wrestling on this show. And to join me, as if that all wasn't enough, the guest that I have on this episode is a guy who has wrestled a number of these guys. I think he still has Malachi Black. I think he still has his footprint on his face from getting a black mass. We got Shady Nattrass joining the Apron Bump for this episode to review this show. Shady's been wrestling for about 20 years now, all over the world. Has a lot of experience, like I said, firsthand experience with some of the people on this episode, but people like Ricochet and like tons of other names that I think he lists on this episode. So lots of experience with a variety of different opponents. Paul London, like guys like that. So it's great to have him. Lots of insight on Progress as a company, the wrestlers involved, and all of that stuff. So you may have seen Shady a lot on social media. He's very active on Twitter. Just a very positive dude. Loves to help other wrestlers and really anyone in the wrestling business, podcasters like myself. Just a really good dude, and really likes to expand his reach to try to help himself improve and to, like I said, to help others as well. And that's evidenced by his work with Target Wrestling, which is the main promotion that he's involved in, not only as a great performer there, but as a trainer. I think he has a hand in the creative and stuff like that. But he's a big part of Target Wrestling. And they've had a lot of good names, a lot of big names come through. And go check them out on Twitter, by the way, at Target Wrestling. And check Shady out at Shady Nattrass. So they make it really easy for you. All that in the description of the podcast as well. But give Shady a follow, give Target Wrestling a follow. And it was really fun having Shady on. He was able to provide a lot of insight on a lot of these guys, even some negative stuff too, which I did not expect, but I was more than happy to get his insight on certain people that he does not really appreciate in the wrestling business, but or at least he's just not a fan of. I don't want to say he like hates the guys, but I mean, he does hate Pete Dunne, but we'll get into that in the episode. Let's get right into it, man. Progress Chapter 13 with myself and UK wrestling veteran Shady Nattrass. Yeah, so I guess before we get into the show itself, so your main you've probably made the biggest name for yourself in Target Wrestling, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess as it relates to Progress, have you guys done any collaboration of any sort with Progress, or have you had guys like come in and out?
Well, I've worked with a number of the people on the show itself. So, I've actually had matches myself with them. So, there's been a few crossovers over the years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's good to know. So you could properly bury them, is what you're saying when we get into the matches.
Like the only issue that I was wondering what the best thing about it is the whole speaking out.
Right.
Because there's a lot. There's a
lot of prominent players on this show that because it's a lot of people don't even want to come on and talk about it because they'd be too distracted by it, which I get for sure.
for me, it's not an issue because at the end of the day, I've worked with these people. I don't agree with what they've done, but it never really affected me. So
yeah, I feel like you can compartmentalize like what you're watching on the screen versus the person that they are. You can kind of separate the two.
Yeah,
like me personally, I could still watch Chris Benoit matches. So if I feel like if I could watch him, I can watch these people. Not to diminish, what they did, but I'd say what Benoit did is a little worse.
I do agree.
But yeah, outside of that, I guess just overall, we'll get into the individual matches and stuff like that. But overall, what were your thoughts on the show? Or have you seen the show before, Chapter 13?
I think I have seen it before. That was probably the time when I was a bigger fan of Progress. It was for me, it was better back then, because I think the wrestlers were trying to still make Progress his name.
Right.
So rather than just, it kind of evolved into, hey, we're Progress, we're cool.
Right. They kind of just rested on that rather than they lost the hunger, you're saying?
Yeah.
Because I was big into Ring of Honor growing up here in the States, and they kind of went through a similar thing where early on, I mean, the WWE roster and a lot of AEW too is filled with guys that made their name in Ring of Honor. I think at a certain point they got they got some TV deals, they got all that stuff.
When they knocked the lights off.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I guess you're not the first one to mention how Progress kind of went through a similar thing, but yeah, this is my first time I'm chronologically going through everything, so I'll try to enjoy it while I can, I guess is what you're saying. But yeah, man, just dive in right into the show. So can you explain to me who this gentleman is I think, is it Chris Kamara?
Okay. Chris Kamara used to be a soccer player, then he became a manager, then he became a TV pundit.
Right, for Sky Sports, correct?
Sky Sports, yes.
Okay.
So he'd like be watching games, and then they'd like go from the studio to him who's at the football match, and he'd be trying to tell the people in the studio what was happening without actually there being any footage shown.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So he's a big name over there, is what you're telling me.
I wouldn't even say he's a big name.
Look, he was presented like a big deal. I was like, man, I should know who this lad is, but I do not.
It's a case of a lot of, obviously, soccer's a big thing over here. A lot of people on a Saturday come about 3:00. 3 in the afternoon is your kickoff time.
Right.
So if you watch Sky Sports News, they have a studio show where all the results come in.
Yeah.
So they have like the full games playing, and as I say, the scores come in every time somebody scores a goal. It comes up. So like lots and lots of people watch it. So if you were a football fan, a soccer fan, then it is a big deal for wrestling.
Right.
Like we did it ourselves. Target, we did a little promotional video with the Carlisle United manager, who used to play for like Manchester City. So for people in Carlisle, it was a big deal, but anybody else, it might not have even been anything. So
this is kind of like, have you seen WrestleMania 11?
I will have done, yeah.
So this is kind of the equivalent of Lawrence Taylor being in the main event of WrestleMania. Yeah. It's like the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember at the time we had no idea who Lawrence Taylor was, but he was against Bam Bam, so I was watching it.
But yeah, I bring it up because there's like a little skit in the beginning. It was kind of a whatever thing, but so that brings us to the first match. We have Rampage Brown versus Daryl Allen. And the first thing I noticed right off the bat is the amazing energy from the crowd here in Camden, London, in the Electric Ballroom. And this is only their second show in that ballroom. They've finally gotten out of that the garage in Islington So it just feels like a big deal just based off the aesthetics and the improved lighting, the better audio and stuff like that. That really makes a difference here because you can really you could feel the electricity in there. The electric ballroom electricity. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Please don't leave. But so yeah, we got Rampage versus Daryl Allen. To me, this match just seemed like a match between a father and son.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I think there was even like a "Are you his daddy?" chant or something like that. Who knows? But it was a fun opener. Nothing too crazy. You have Rampage, the obviously the bigger guy against Daryl Allen, the high flyer. I did like that dynamic. I thought Rampage was a great base for Daryl, and I think Daryl was a great bumping machine for Rampage. Basically, ultimately, Daryl goes for the dazzling twist, but Rampage just grabs him by the head, throws him throat first into the middle rope, gives him a massive pile driver for the win. So Rampage wins, simple but effective. Yeah, like I said, great opener.
Right. For me, Rampage Brown's the best UK heavyweight.
Yeah.
And he's outstanding. He was actually signed to WWE for, I don't know how long he was there, but he was at FCW when that was the development.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And now he's re-signed with NXT UK, so he's got himself back signed again, which is obviously, you know what I mean, money talks and everything. So if it's best thing for him. And yeah, as I say, for me, one of the best heavyweights in the UK, and that pile driver is quite nasty.
Yeah.
I've been on the receiving end a few times.
Have you?
In fact, the last time I wrestled him, after he beat me with it, he then picked me up and did it several more times, just because I wanted him to.
You wanted him to?
Yep.
Fun ride, I guess, huh?
Target wrestling.
Yeah. But yeah, so you have wrestled Rampage before. Have you wrestled Daryl Allen before?
No, I haven't. I don't think I've even worked on a show with him before. But
really?
Yeah, he was one of the trainers at one of the schools down in London, and yeah, he seemed to do a good job. So yeah, it was a fun little opener. I think that's the sort of match you need to open a show.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's fancy enough to get a reaction, but not to like take away for anything else.
Right. Yeah, and there's not too many storyline implications or anything too thought-provoking. It's just two guys wrestling, and I think that's a perfect way to set the tone, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But after that, man, a little blast from the past here. So we got Natural Progression Series match. We have Robbie X versus Pete Dunne.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm not familiar with Dynamite Pete Dunne. Are you at all?
Yeah, it was a look.
It was something. He had what do you even call those? Capri pants?
Oh yeah.
I think over there it's just what everybody wears, right?
With the anchor on the side.
Oh, it's pretty cool. I think he had gauges too in his ears.
Yeah.
What a man! What an angsty Pete Dunne we got here. But it's weird though. You know, you look at the people on the show, and maybe other than Prince Devitt, which we'll get to later, I think Pete Dunne's probably had the most success of all the guys on the show. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. You can't really argue with where he is now. I'm personally not a big fan.
Why's that?
Just I don't know if it's just a disconnect with me with I don't see his stuff all making sense always, considering he's meant to be so like technically gifted, which he is. I'm not saying that he's not, but you have to have continuity. Like when he was at PWG and he did a tombstone on the outside, and he doesn't wear knee pads.
Right. Yeah, probably not the smartest.
and he didn't, like, there was no reaction to it. And for me, that's the little details that I look for. And I think he, as I was saying earlier about Progress and their kind of getting swept away with themselves, I think a lot of Pete Dunne got caught up with that.
Yeah.
So I think as good as he is, I think he comes across bigger because of the way that the people reacted at Progress, and it was made to be super special. And obviously with Pete Dunne as like the star of that, he too was shot through the roof. So
right.
Yeah,
so do you think he's kind of? Are you saying you think he's kind of coasting where he is now?
Possibly, but at the same time, when you're in that position in NXT, do they want you to do anything outrageous?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a WWE formula that everybody kind of falls into at some point eventually. Yeah. I would say his run in NXT UK was very great. Ever since he's come to NXT US, I could kind of agree that he's maybe lost some momentum, but I still love watching his work to this day. But that being said, I haven't seen a lot of his stuff in Progress, so maybe I don't have all the context that you have.
Some of the fine details that he does put in his matches are really good. So you know what I mean? It's kind of just being picky, really. But
right. Well, that's why I brought you on here. You have the expertise, so pick away. But yeah, Pete Dunne here, kind of like I said, a very different aesthetic, shorter hair, has like I said, the jean kind of pants, but his style is pretty similar. He almost has more of, I think he's more like lucha inspired here than he is now. He did the whole little Spider-Man spot in the ropes. Yeah. That like Andrade would do or whatever. Yeah. So that just watching that kind of seemed out of place for me, but match gets underway. Well, I guess before that, Robbie X. Are you familiar with Robbie X at all?
Yeah, I haven't worked with him, but yeah, a really, really good quality cruiserweight style wrestler. I always think that when people first see Robbie come through the curtains, they don't realize how good he is.
Yeah.
And then once he wrestles, you can make your decision then. Yeah, I think he's really good, and I think now that the shows in the UK are kind of coming back, I think he could be a spearhead of a lot of companies.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Because this is my first Robbie X match that I've seen, and I wasn't really sold on just seeing him, but by the end of the match, I was all in. Pete Dunne hits a bitter end like a few minutes into the match. I guess it's not his finisher at this point because it only gets a 2 count. They fight to the outside a little bit. Robbie hits a beautiful Asai moonsault to the outside. The crowd here is cracking me up. They're chanting "Red Face" at Robbie. The poor guy, he just has this like deep red for whatever reason. I don't know if that's just the ginger in him or whatever, but I almost called him Red Face there. Robbie starts getting some offense in, but Pete Dunne cuts him off with a tombstone, like you mentioned. I think he's wearing knee pads here, so don't you get worked up into a tizzy. He's wearing knee pads. Robbie hits a springboard cutter, which I think a few people on this show use.
Yeah.
Really fast-paced stretch at the end here. Pete ends up winning when Robbie goes for a moonsault. Pete Dunne gets his knees up, and then he channels his inner Dean Malenko with a Tiger Powerbomb, followed by a Texas Cloverleaf, or a England Cloverleaf, I guess, wherever he's from.
Which I think earlier on in the match he kind of botches, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just slips and he loses his legs a little bit. Yeah, he doesn't have it
done properly. But
he's young.
It happens.
He doesn't have a singlet yet. Nothing matters until he gets a singlet. But yeah, really good match here, I thought. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. it's the sort of match that I'm a fan of. Bit fast paced, but then tells a good story in it as well.
Yeah. Other than your hatred for Pete Dunne, other than that, that'll be the clickbait headline. Shady Nattrass buries Pete Dunne. Oh man. But so after that, we get a little something different, some two bigger lads. We got Eddie Dennis versus Michael Gilbert. Otherwise known as No Gimmicks Required, Michael Gilbert, apparently. So there's another guy I'm not too familiar with. Are you familiar with Michael Gilbert at all?
Very much so. He was actually I've worked with him a few times, and he was actually in my first ever match back in 2001. Really? Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the reason why he has this no gimmick character is it was a progress only deal, because normally he wrestles as Mikey Whiplash.
Okay. Gotcha.
And he'd often wear like the face paint, and he teamed with Tommy End and Dante in ICW.
Right.
But like an outstanding worker, really, really good. I think he had ruffled a few feathers backstage in a few companies earlier in his career, and I think that kind of put a halt to any real progress he was making. And then he kind of just went his way. He kind of went, well, I'll do how I want to do wrestling.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to him, as I say, wrestling as he does on this show. But yeah, really technically sound, and for the size of him, he's one of the best workers I've been in the ring with.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of him, but like Robbie X. I mean, I was kind of sold on him by the end of this. It was almost like a bigger version of Dean Malenko. Yeah. Maybe it's just because I just saw Texas Cloverleaf. Maybe that's because I was thinking that. But he's facing Eddie Dennis here, and Eddie is, I don't know how much you follow NXT UK, but it's funny seeing Eddie here as like the comedy guy versus where he is now, where he's like dead, ice cold, serious.
I think his current persona fits him so much better.
I agree.
Like this almost comedy style didn't do anything for me personally. You
didn't like Eddie Mysterio Jr.?
No, not from on. Say it was a quiet Sunday afternoon show in front of families.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
But in front of the super cool Progress fans, for me, it didn't. I don't think it was needed.
Right.
When Eddie can work. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that whole crowd's probably hammered, so they'll pop for everything. You know. But I agree. I think Eddie Dennis, he has like I guess like a sliminess to him, where it like makes his very creepy, not creepy, I guess just like sleazy. I think that's a better word. And he's very articulate too, and it works really well for him what he's doing now.
Because he was a school teacher, I think.
Yes, he was. But so this match here, a lot of it is so Eddie Dennis, he starts off, he grabs the mic. It's the funny guy versus the serious guy of this match. Eddie Dennis says Michael Gilbert doesn't like his alter ego. I guess Michael said something in a promo earlier or online or something. So this prompts Eddie Dennis to whip out a Rey Mysterio mask and put it on. Hence Eddie Mysterio Jr. Good shit, pal. It's such good shit. But Michael, it just pisses Michael Gilbert off. He says he wants to be serious. But the crowd is not helping him because Michael Gilbert gets control. He has various submissions on him, and they're just chanting, Gilbert. God, this crowd's killing me, man. But eventually Gilbert rips off Eddie Dennis's mask. It's a huge heat with the people there in London. Michael Gilbert puts on an STF to which the crowd responds by chanting John Cena's theme song. Dun, 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 dun. It's like that's not what Michael wants. He wants to be serious after all. But eventually, after some heat, Gilbert puts the mask back onto Eddie, and he's like, "You want to be a funny man, huh?" Which big mistake, because this allows Eddie to channel Rey Mysterio, gives him a tilt-a-whirl head scissors into the ropes, and the worst 619. I think it's not even a 6. It's like a 6 that he gives him. He like doesn't even like in
the UK.
Yeah. He like swings one leg through and hits him with a knee. But that brings us to the finish. Eddie Dennis goes for his last stop driver. Michael Gilbert reverses. Dennis reverses into an O'Connor roll, but then Gilbert counters very smoothly into a prawn hold for the win. I really like the finish. I think it was really, like I said, it was very smooth, and it kind of gave it like sucked the air out of the crowd in a good way. I thought it gave a lot of heat to Michael Gilbert here.
No, I agree. I think, I do think it was smoothly done, and I don't think anybody expected it to be a finish.
Yeah,
which is sometimes the best way to go, especially with the heel going over. So, I thought it was a good finish.
Yeah, especially because this is Gilbert's debut in Progress, and I don't know if anybody was necessarily expecting him to win here either.
Yeah,
which, like you said, adds to the unpredictability about it. But so that brings us a little change in pace here. We got a number one contenders 4-way elimination tag team match. And this is to crown the number one contenders for the Progress Championship. So we got the London Riots versus Project Ego versus Screw Indie Wrestling versus the Swords of Essex. And Screw Indie Wrestling, by the way, the graphic had Mark Haskins and Nathan Cruz, but I guess I'm assuming Nathan Cruz got some sort of injury or something. He's not on the show. So they replaced him here with Shaw Samuels.
Yep.
So yeah, a lot of guys here, a lot of guys that have gone on to make big names for themselves in Progress and elsewhere. Pretty much a very chaotic kind of match. So what were your overall thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good match. Kind of managed to showcase a bit of everybody, which, especially in a 4-way tag team match, can be pretty difficult. But you did have some top quality workers in there. So it was an enjoyable match. As I say, there's nothing worse than seeing a 4-way tag team match and kind of feeling like somebody missed out. But I think everybody got a fair turn in this match. So I thought it was good. Yeah,
and just to bring up Ring of Honor again, I've been watching some older shows recently, and I noticed that in their first couple shows, they would open up with a match like this, just like a tag match with a ton of people in it, just to it feels like just to show off all the fancy moves, to get everybody involved for a lot of tag team maneuvers, a lot of dives to the outside and all that kind of stuff. Would you agree that that's probably what the intent was with this match?
I think so. I think, and I think because they'd made it a number one contender match, I think it was a good way to kind of add a few more teams to the division,
right?
Rather than have a tag match with a number one contendership. Because as far as some people might know, there's only 3 teams in the division, but by having a 4-way, you've added some more teams into the mix,
right?
So I think that could have been a reason behind it.
Right, absolutely. Do you guys at Target Wrestling ever just throw a bunch of guys in the ring just for like a chaotic opener or something like that?
Not really. No, it's very rare we have anything more than 4 men in there. We've had a couple of 6-man tags. I know I've been involved in a couple with people like Johnny Storm and Jody Fleisch, which have provided a few high-risk maneuvers and things like that, which you kind of expect from them. But we kind of, if we want to showcase more individuals rather than spectacles in Target Wrestling, which I think once you've kind of showcased the wrestlers, you can, once they're over with the crowd, then deliver the moments. But yeah, it's each company has their own kind of way of doing things, aren't they? So
right, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, this match here, the Riots have a ton of heat at this point. It's a "fuck you Riots" chant like all throughout the match. About 5 minutes into the match, everybody just gets into the ring at once. They all start brawling. Breaks to the outside. Project Ego launches Paul Robinson, like a double hip toss outside onto everybody. They follow it up with doing stereo dives to the outside. Then Will Ospreay, a very young Will Ospreay, gets to the top rope and does a corkscrew senton onto all of them. Just lots of dives, lots of chaos. But eventually, so it's an elimination match. And eventually, both the teams of Screw Indie Wrestling and Project Ego get counted out. So I think that's kind of, they're going to break off and have their own feud, and then you're going to have the title feud. So definitely breathing some life.
For me, that was disappointing because out of all them teams, them two were the two teams that I was kind of rooting for.
Right.
A big fan of both of them teams.
Yeah.
For the rest of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that just leaves Swords of Essex, which is a team of Will Ospreay and Paul Robinson and the London Riots. So Ospreay hits a double springboard Pele onto one of the Riots. He goes to make the tag to Paul Robinson, but that goddamn Paul Robinson pulls his hand away, hops off the apron, and walks out on his tag team partner. My goodness. I knew something was up when he showed up with a shaved head, Paul Robinson. I was like, this man cannot be trusted. Because Paul Robinson is one of the guys that I've become a quick fan of in my watching of Progress. I mean, just such an exciting dude in the ring, but everyone's been telling me his character takes a dramatic change, and I guess this is kind of like the start of it. Robinson and Ospreay teased tension at the last chapter, and I guess it's kind of the beginning, like the big spark here. So Paul's out, leaving Ospreay alone to face the London Riots by himself. The Riots hit the district line powerbomb onto Ospreay, but unbelievably he kicks out at 2. Will Ospreay hits the double Os cutter for 2. Really good false finishes here at the end, but ultimately Ospreay, as he's fighting back, James Davis just catapults him into Rob Lynch, who hits him with a spear out of midair for the win. So the London Riots win here and are the new number 1 contenders for the broken shield that Progress has for their titles. Yeah, any other thoughts on this match?
No, I thought the finish worked really well. And yeah, as you say, because of them, the way that they did the false finishes, I think it built up to hitting that big spear, and he caught it perfectly. So yeah, it looked really good finish.
Yeah, have you had any experience wrestling? I feel like I keep asking you this, but have you had any experience wrestling the London Riots?
No, I didn't, and they're not on the go anymore.
Yeah,
Shah Samuels, I've been on shows with him. He was a big he was heavyweight champion at Tiger Wrestling for a while.
Oh yeah.
So was Martin Kirby out of Project Ego.
Awesome.
Kirby's someone I've worked with a lot, and he's unfortunately he's retired now. But he was, for me, one of the best all-round workers in the country, and he even managed to get a little run at Dragon Gate before he finished, which was a dream come true for him. So
yeah,
and
I'm sure.
With Travis, it's a shame that he passed, because he would have been signed before anybody else in the UK, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah,
it was it's some good workers in that match. So fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, Project. Yeah, like you said, just a shame about Chris Travis. I thought that team was so charismatic. I thought the sky was the limit for those two, but yeah, it's definitely a shame. But seemed like they're building up to something here with Paul Robinson, and we are not done with that lad here. But that brings us to our next match. We have El Ligero versus Malachi Black. Is that how you pronounce it? His AEW name?
Malachi.
Malachi. Malachi. Well, look at me. But yeah, I guess first of all, what are your thoughts on Tommy End debuting with AEW?
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. My only issue is he's going straight in with Cody, which I think Cody's seems to be in his own little AEW world. So I think you're kind of missing some potential money matches that people would be wanting to pay pay-per-view prices for.
Right.
Because I don't think Cody is that match. But I don't know. It's not up to me to decide that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the issue people have with him carrying on his eye gimmick that he's got going, it doesn't take anything away from me. I'm more than happy for wrestlers to have enough time and effort to give themselves a backstory. It doesn't involve a certain promotion, wrestler. You know what I mean? He can now do any show working that same gimmick.
Yep.
So I'm okay with that for me. Do you know what I mean? He can do whatever he wants with it now. So I think, I think it's going to add something more than just Tommy End who kicks people with some cool tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of what he was missing in his like initial run with the main roster. Is like you said, he was a cool guy with tattoos. He rose up from a casket or whatever at his entrance, kicks people, but that was about it.
But I actually think he lost his. I don't know if it was his character or just his edge or what when he was in NXT, because he worked that match with Velveteen Dream where he had to give him respect, but he had to say his name, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Aleister Black beat him, and then he said his name. So why have a match?
Hey, that's I love that match. I'm not gonna shit on that match, but
then it gets to the end, and you've just lost his edge because he just gave him saying his name anyway.
I mean, I think it was fine considering he won the match. You know, I think it was more of building up Velveteen Dream rather than losing his edge.
And for me, that would be fine. But I think Aleister Black hadn't. You know what I mean, if you're gonna go all in with a character and give him the entrance and everything, you have to follow through with it. And I think it's happening right now with Karrion Kross.
Right.
You've got to go somewhere with it. Unfortunately, I think the WWE will always rely on Undertaker character, but that was in the 90s.
and today, I would argue that's very oversaturated with that type of character.
And do you know what I mean? If you had no Undertaker and he started now, he wouldn't be what we know as the Undertaker.
Right.
So
no, for sure.
As I say, I think you're starting off with a disconnect right away. But Tommy's outstanding. He's such a good worker. And that Black Mass is lethal. I had footprint on my head from when he did it.
Oh, so you've taken that?
Yeah. Actually, the first time I wrestled Tommy, it was my girlfriend was due our daughter, and we were about an hour away from our hometown, and I couldn't concentrate on the match because it's like I really hope she doesn't start going into labor while the match is on.
Oh no!
And then so we had this match, and then he hit us with that roundhouse kick, and it looks beautiful, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
Right.
Feel good.
It almost looks real because it is.
And the second match actually was myself, Tommy, and Martin Kirby in a three-way match.
Wow,
and that was fun. Yeah,
that sounds like a banger. That sounds awesome. And this match, in its own right was pretty good here versus Ligero. A solid match, nothing that really overshadowed anything else that was on this show. Like you said, he hits the black mass in this match, but just kind of like in the middle, I don't think it was his finisher at this point, because he hits Ligero as he's going for like a springboard. Ligero is, but then he catches him in midair with a black mass, which looked beautiful. Even followed it up with a brainbuster, but only for a 2 count. Tommy goes for the double stomp off the top rope, which I think is his finisher at this point, but he misses. He then goes for a lion salt, but Ligero catches him with a cutter. Ligero goes for the cover, but then somebody pulls him out from the outside. And as I was watching this, I could not tell who it is, but I looked it up after, and I guess it was Michael Gilbert.
Yeah.
So I guess they're starting some sort of feud there between Ligero and Gilbert. Not sure what the backstory is, if they've had history in other promotions or whatever it is, but Michael Gilbert pulls out Ligero, and this disqualifies Tommy End and gives Ligero the win by TQ. But Ligero urges Jim Smallman, who's ringside, to restart the match. Jim Smallman says, and I quote, "Fuck it, ring the bell." And then they immediately, get into some roll-ups, but Tommy's able to catch Ligero with a dragon sleeper. Ligero taps out, and Tommy N gets the win here. Like I said, solid match, and it seems like it set up another feud with Ligero here.
It was one of the best Ligero matches I've seen.
Yeah,
Ligero was someone who was everywhere on the British scene, but I think because you see somebody a lot, it's hard for them to stand out as much. But I thought he did a solid job in this match. And as I said earlier, I don't know if Michael Gilbert and Tommy End were going to restart their group.
Progress. Okay. Yeah, that would make sense.
I'm not sure how where that leads to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I read something online after this, because it wasn't on the video that I watched, but I guess Michael Gilbert came in after the match and attacked Ligero some more, gave him a DDT, beat him up some more, but that wasn't on the feed that I watched. But so it seems like more of a personal vendetta against Ligero rather than teaming with Tommy N. But like you said, it could go either way. But yeah, really good match here. Always love watching Tommy N wrestle. No matter what promotion he's in, he's one of my favorites going today for sure. But man, we got something coming up now. We got Zack Sabre Jr. versus Prince Devitt, aka Finn Balor, for anybody listening that's unaware. And not just Prince Devitt, Joker Prince Devitt. What'd you think of his little get up here with the face paint, the red lipstick, and the I enjoyed jacket?
It because he did a number of them around the UK, and it kind of it added something to him where people that wanted to come and see what his paint was going to be.
Yeah,
which you know what I mean. If you can have somebody wanting to buy a ticket just because you put some face paint on.
Yeah,
that's the start of a good job for you.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen a ton of stuff of his in Japan where he'd be like Spider-Man or just other shit like that. But eventually, at some point, you got to be like, okay, we got to make people understand who I am rather than just kind of see me for the paint job.
Yeah.
And eventually, it would transition, as anybody that watches NXT knows, to the Demon, who that would only get brought out for special occasions. So kind of like the early iterations of that kind of style from him here. And I looked it up just to make sure, but this is like right before he debuts for NXT. This is only 2 months before. So this must be one of his last matches on the indies here, which is it's crazy in hindsight. But the bell rings. First, the crowd is just going bonkers for Devitt. I mean, he's at this point one of the biggest non-WWE wrestlers in the world. Made a huge name for himself in Japan and Mexico and elsewhere. So the bell rings, which, by the way, Devitt still has his like button-up shirt and his vest on and his tie. I was like, is he going to wrestle the whole match like this? But he eventually takes it off. Like an IRS or something in this bitch. But bell rings. and immediately Prince Devitt gets shot out of a cannon, hits Zack Sabre Jr. with a shotgun drop kick into the corner, followed by a coup de grace double stomp from the top rope. And at that point, I was like, this can't be it. They're not going to just go bring him here for a 5-second match. It was a 2 count ultimately. You have Zach getting control, doing his ZSJ thing. Lots of beautiful chain wrestling. Devitt fights back. They make their way to the outside. Devitt pulls out a chair. I guess it's no DQ. They're not going to disqualify Prince Devitt for in progress, you know. So he hits Zach in the gut with it, sets the chair up, sits Zach down on the chair and does a running drop kick and knocks him like halfway into the crowd. Just looks beautiful. I don't know why I liked how it looked, but it did. Back in the ring, you have I keep wanting to call him Finn Balor. You have Prince Devitt hitting the Bloody Sunday onto Zach for a 2 count. Zach hits a couple suplexes, a PK. He keeps trying to lock in the armbar, but Prince keeps reaching for the ropes. Towards the end, Devitt hits Zack Sabre Jr. with a lariat, followed by a coup de grace, and then the 1916. I don't know if that's what he was calling it here, but that's what it was. And that gives Devitt the win. So Prince Devitt comes into progress, beats Zack Sabre Jr. in a really good match. What were your thoughts on it?
You kind of knew it was going to be something special when you see the 2 names on the paper. And yeah, it delivered as far as I was concerned. And I think even now, I don't think people realize how good Devitt is. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if it's a case of now he only wrestles what he needs to. Not a case of him being stale or anything. It's just you never know how much they're allowed off the reins.
Yeah.
But like, especially this time, like when he was just before NXT, he was working everybody in every style, and he just got better and better in the ring. I think a lot of people dislike the WWE style, but for me, it adds polish to it. And I think Devitt's definitely got that polish that he needed to make him an even better worker. Right.
Yeah, I would say his run on the main roster, kind of as a lot of people do, they kind of fall into a formula and maybe become a little complacent. I mean, not complacent, but they just, like you said, they only have so many reigns to go off of. But ever since he's come back to NXT, they're a little bit more lax over there. So I like the kind of path he's taken. Like you said, he got that polish, but now he's back to where he can kind of showcase that polish as well as his stuff that he's learned all around the world.
And the other thing now is it's the perfect place to do it, because if you have these less experienced workers at NXT, and now they get to work with somebody who's been main roster and is as good as Devitt Balor is, it's only going to improve them. And I think that, for me, that's what the independent scene's missed at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, there's more places to work, but because you're not getting, I mean, how many in the early 2000s of the AJ Styles and your Daniel Bryan and everybody, they'll have got a chance to work with ex-WWE names regularly, just on independent shows.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's, for me, that's key to being next level.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, as I said, Balor's unreal.
Right. Yeah, like a lack of experienced kind of centerpieces to build off of on the indies. I could definitely see that, especially how with NXT UK and how they're kind of yanking everybody. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, as I say, I think if you work with somebody that's been on WWE main roster, they're going to be able to tell you things that even people on NXT won't be able to, because they haven't experienced that bit yet, or haven't got in a pattern of doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like one of, for me, what being able to work with like ex-WWE wrestlers, it's you pick up little things that
Right.
you don't even realize that you've maybe done in the match or not done. Whether it's positioning, or you know what I mean, footwork, things like that, that you don't realize on the independent scene because you don't have to.
Right.
So yeah, it's a different class.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, awesome stuff there. Like you said, you put those two guys on paper, you know it's going to be something special.
Yep.
But that brings us to the main event. We have the Progress staff on the line. The first ever ladder match in Progress history. The champion Jimmy Havoc defending against Mark Andrews. Cool. So are you familiar with the backstory and how we've kind of gotten to this match?
A bit of it. But on like the thing with Jimmy Havoc in Progress is a lot of his story all kind of seem to blend into the same. So it's always kind of hard to position the timing of it.
Yeah, because basically we're pretty much at the beginning of his kind of reign of terror here. We had Mark Andrews he won the first Natural Progression series. He won a chance at the champion, who at the time was Rampage Brown. So he challenged Rampage, beat Rampage, but then Jimmy Havoc came out right after the match. And I guess he had some sort of clause in his contract to grant him a title match whenever he wants. So he basically picked the bones of Mark Andrews, threatened to light him on fire. I thought that was a bit excessive. But Jimmy Havoc beat Mark Andrews to win the Progress Championship. So this is kind of now they have, even footing. Now they're not, picking the bones after a long match or whatever. So that's how we got here. And it's a ladder match, but they can't hang this big ass staff from the ceiling, I guess. So they have a clipboard with a piece of paper on it that says, "I owe you a title," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. But so there's a lot going on in this match. Feel free to interrupt me whenever.
Yeah.
Just like the London riots, Jimmy Havoc has a ton of heat, more heat than anybody else in Progress. Lots of Jimmy, you're a cunt. A lot of those chants.
It's
so
quite creative in the UK.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta call a guy a cunt, No nonsense. But they fight to the outside. It's a ladder match, but it's kind of a TLC match ultimately. They fight to the outside, and Andrews pulls out the world's flimsiest ladder I've ever seen. It was literally it was one of those, I don't know what you call it. It's like when you're painting your walls in a room. So it's not like a full ladder, but it's a kind of angled thing. And it can't be much taller than 6 feet tall. So it's like, how are you going to reach the clipboard here? But Andrews pulls it out. He sets it up in the middle of the ring. He's like climbing. It's like rickety because it's such a skinny ass ladder. But Havoc stops him. And Jimmy Havoc sets up the ladder in the corner and gives him a power bomb into the ladder. Jimmy Havoc gets to the outside and sets up a table, the first of many. Mark Andrews, they're like fighting. They're both standing on top of the table. Mark Andrews hits him with like a side effect, Uranagi type of move through it, which prompts Mark Andrews to finally pull out a big boy ladder. To which the crowd chants, "That's a ladder." So it's like, very good, Mark. You found a real ladder.
The problem we have in the UK is we don't actually have any good ladders to use for wrestling.
Is that true?
That is very true.
So you all just have very small houses, is what I'm hearing.
and really bad ladders.
Right.
If you get a decent sized ladder, some of them only have steps on one side.
Really? That's Man, that's interesting. So if you just want to clean your gutters, you're just fucked. So he pulls out a big boy ladder, puts it in the middle of the ring. Mark Andrews starts to climb it, but Jimmy Havoc gets in there and pushes him off. Jimmy Havoc sets up yet another table on the outside, but this time ends up powerbombing Andrews off the apron through the table. That classic Dudley Boy style powerbomb. Havoc, now that he has Andrews down, he goes in the ring, goes to climb the ladder that's set up. But Mark Andrews keeps getting back up, so Havoc gets frustrated and just keeps hopping off and throwing steel chairs at him and whatnot. They eventually fight to the stage area where they come out. Jimmy Havoc sets up another table in front of the stage, like in the aisleway. Mark Andrews hits Jimmy Havoc with a kick to the face, and then Mark Andrews does a stage dive off the stage, through the table, through Jimmy Havoc. Just fits his character perfectly. Mark Andrews gets back to the ring, but Jimmy Havoc's back up, and he stops him from climbing the ladder. Jimmy Havoc sets up 2 chairs, lays Mark Andrews on these setup chairs, but Andrews gets up and hurricanranas Jimmy Havoc off the top rope through these 2 setup chairs. Just brutal. Have you ever taken a bump like that where you go through setup chairs?
I think I took a double choke slam a few times through them.
Casual.
Is
there a secret to it, or is it just suck?
Yeah, it just sucks. But to be honest, just taking a bump in the ring sucks. So
it does, yeah.
And like taking the moves on ladders. The worst one I took was a razor's edge onto a ladder in the corner, and I managed to kind of bounce, break the ladder, and end up underneath the ladder.
Oh, lucky you!
I don't know how it happened, but yeah, it was. It looked pretty brutal.
I can imagine. So Andrews hurricanranas Havoc through the table. So Andrews starts to climb the ladder once again, but the London Riots, who are pretty much kind of a unit with Jimmy Havoc at this point, they come out to stop Mark Andrews, which prompts out Eddie Dennis and Pete Dunne to come out to even the odds. Which is funny, like Eddie Dennis at this point was such a bigger star than Pete Dunne, which is funny in hindsight, considering how their trajectories have gone. Like I don't even know if anybody knew it was Pete Dunne, honestly. But so those four, the 4 that are not in the match, they all fight to the back. So it just leaves Jimmy Havoc and Mark Andrews. Lots of great drama here at the end where they're both on top of the ladder fighting each other. They're both like in arm's reach of the clipboard, but no guy can grab it and pull it down. Then they fight off the ladder. They both go to the top rope. Mark Andrews kicks Jimmy Havoc off the top rope through a table that's set up outside. So Jimmy Havoc's out. He's through a table. He's on the floor. Mark Andrews has a clean lane to grab this clipboard. Then fucking Paul Robinson comes out. God damn it, that skinhead Paul Robinson. He comes out, grabs a chair, just tosses it at Andrews, beats the hell out of Mark Andrews. Then Paul Robinson picks up Jimmy Havoc, gives him a hug and a handshake, sends him on his way up the ladder, and Jimmy Havoc grabs the clipboard, pulls it down as Paul Robinson continues his attack with a steel chair onto Mark Andrews. Just a brutal end. And I guess Jimmy Havoc is starting to build somewhat of a faction here. Paul Robinson is a huge heel now. It's a quick turn. The crowd is stunned. That's pretty much how the show ends. The crowd is just like, what the fuck just happened? And then the show ends. And Jimmy Havoc retains the staff. So craziness, this match.
What you expect from Jimmy Havoc?
Yeah. I suppose so. As far as ladder matches go, what do you think of this match?
Yeah, I thought it was good. As you say, I think they kind of used the tables a bit more than for me they should have done.
It was a bit excessive, I would agree.
Yeah, when you could have done more creative ladder spots, I think that would be the only negative thing really for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact that they teased the extra heel coming to help Jimmy, and then they got chased off, and then they brought another one. I think that was a good way to do it rather than just do one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Jimmy Havoc matches are always kind of like this, but definitely it maintains the heat that he has. I always like a champion like this that feels like a guy on top of the mountain that you're trying to conquer, but he has his little minions in front of him. So I like how they're kind of setting up his character here. He's feeling legit as champion at this point. Mark Andrews still looked great, and Paul Robinson is pretty much a star at this point, I feel like. So so that brings the show to a close. Chapter 13. But yeah, once again, overall, what were your thoughts on the show overall?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think it was all paced really well.
Mm-hmm.
Having the Zack Sabre Jr. match, and then you've got your Jimmy Havoc match. It's such a big contrast.
Yeah.
In styles, and I think it worked brilliantly. I think if you'd done it the other way around and used, do you know what I mean, Devitt as the big star in the main event, I think they'd have been burnt out. So I think I think everything kind of flowed really well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, very easy watch. It was it was a fun watch too. Some shows you're like kind of looking at the clock, like, all right, how much time's left? But this show was not like that at all. Like you said, it flowed very well. It kind of seemed to have varying styles throughout. And yeah, they're definitely progress at this point already has a huge buzz. So I
think this was still, I know it's chapter 13, so you're 13 shows in, you're still building progress to what, you know what I mean, it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And what people got behind. So I think I think it was definitely a steady build for everybody in the company, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I look forward to keep on watching. But so Shady, I appreciate you for making the time to watch the show. Come on here and talk to a naive American about some British wrestling. No, it was a pleasure. You're more than welcome on anytime. So you guys at Target Wrestling, are you guys back and running, or what's your guys' status over there?
We were meant to have 2 shows last month, and then last minute with government guidelines, we had to cancel them even though we had sold out. So that was unfortunate. But as things stand at the moment, the UK is meant to kind of reopen on the 19th of this month. So I think at the end of this month, we should be back to it. And I can't wait because I'm getting desperate now.
Well, by the time this comes out, it might be about that time. So, yeah, anything else you want to plug, promote?
Yeah, my social media, it's at Shady Nattrass on Twitter. Or if you're on Facebook, it's Shady Nattrass on Facebook as well. And I also have a YouTube show that I put out every Wednesday. And that showcases one of my previous matches, and kind of has I kind of have a little bit of discussion either about the match or a certain topic before. And then I try and plug people that deserve to be plugged, whether it's wrestlers, promotions, podcasts, merch. When we had lockdown in the UK, I created Project Wrestling Unity with the intention of being able to help share people's work, whether it's a wrestler's highlight video, a poster for a show, as I say, podcasts, merchandise. I know I personally always used to think that if I was to share somebody's work, it was for another reason. And it's not, it's just, for me, if we make wrestling better, then it's better for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's better for the wrestlers, it's better for the promotions, it's better for the fans. And there isn't really a loser that way.
Yeah.
So wrestling's really, really simple, but a lot of people overcomplicate it with attitudes and egos and things.
Right.
I say I'm a wrestling fan at the end of the day, and I have been for 30 years. So I just want to see the best wrestling. I want me to put on the best wrestling I can put on. On social media, I'm offering free match critiques and feedback for wrestlers. All they have to do is send me a DM and send us a video over, and I'll watch it. And I've got 20 years experience in British wrestling. I've worked with everybody from say Martin Kirby to Al Snow to Paul London to Roderick Strong, Ricochet, El Generico. The list goes on and
Been
on.
around the block.
Yeah, and I'm now comfortable and confident with my experience that I want to pass on stuff that I didn't get taught. And like I was saying earlier, wrestlers can see different things to other wrestlers. If you did a seminar with John Cena, he would tell you something to a seminar with Okada. And neither of them is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just different takes on wrestling. And I personally try to take as much as I can of everything. And at the end of the day, I probably got most over just by being a dick.
I wasn't gonna say it, but as long as you know.
I have a t-shirt that says I hate wrestling fans.
You know what? I'm gonna buy it as soon as we get off here.
That's as simple as it gets, and it works.
Yeah.
Because as soon as a wrestling fan sees that when I come out, well, I know who's the bad guy. Generally, I have a really miserable looking face, so I don't even have to try pulling facial expressions. I just have my regular face, and people think that I'm this moody wrestler who hates everything.
Right.
So it works for me.
Hey, you made it work, and that's all that matters. That's great that you do that with all your critiques of people's matches and stuff like that. And you're definitely very positive, follow on social media, which is a breath of fresh air. Consider, like you said, a lot of people like to have egos and like to argue about, this wrestling versus this wrestling. When there's so much wrestling out there that it's like you can find what you like, you can just watch it and shut the fuck up about it. But your experience in the business is very valuable to anybody that's interested. And it was great to have you on this show as well. Loved having you on once again. Would love to have you on again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed it. It's I always like talking wrestling.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's always fun for me, and get to watch a wrestling show and talk about wrestling, so
doesn't get better than that. Once again, thank you so much to Shady Nattrass for joining me on this show. The franchise player, Shady Nattrass. Tons of fun having him on. Really, really cool to get his insight on a lot of this stuff. I love having podcasters on, but sometimes it's invaluable to have somebody really involved in the business join me in, especially something with such a direct tie like Shady has to the UK wrestling scene. So lots of fun. And if you enjoy these progress reviews, if you're a relatively new listener, feel free to check out apronbump.com. Go to the episodes tab, click on Progress Wrestling, and that'll bring up all of the chapters thus far that I've covered, 1 through 13. So, like I said in the intro, Progress is just so much fun to watch, so much fun to talk about, and it's a modern alternative, man. There's a lot of alternatives out there for you to watch. You don't just need to watch WWE and AEW. There's stuff like Progress out there that is just, I keep saying it, but it's just an easy, fun time to watch. And ultimately, that's why we watch wrestling, is to have fun, huh? Let's make wrestling fun again is a little tagline on my little thing there. But that about does it. Like I said, apronbump.com for all my episodes, all my social media. Check out my YouTube as well for the video version of this episode and all my episodes. Check out all of Shady's info in the description, as well as Target Wrestling. Give them a follow, ski. A lot of good stuff over there by both Shady and Target Wrestling. Yeah, that's all Daddy has for you today. No. I don't know. I don't know. I was about to break out in a song there, but I'm a little hungry. I don't know if I have the energy, but thank you guys once again for listening. I love you all. Smooches, smooches, smooches. I'm hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong.